Winter is approaching, which means that it's time for all my seasonal videos. One of those videos is the books that I DNF'd or did not finish this season. I have 5 books that I'm going to talk about, so here we go. The first book that I DNF'd this season was This Mortal Coil. I believe that this is a sci-fi book, and I DNF'd it pretty quick. I was thinking, I'm pretty sure in my reading vlog I said that I got almost halfway there, but after I DNF'd, I checked and I wasn't that close in the audiobook. I got about a quarter of the way through before I quit. And it's not even anything really all that interesting. I had just finished several books that I rated 3 stars that I just thought were okay. And then I was reading This Mortal Coil and it felt like a 3-star book. I just wasn't enjoying it enough to want to push through it after several books that were just okay. This kicks off with a girl who, I'm trying to remember the basic premise of the story because I forgot it pretty quickly because I just wasn't interested. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic setting. It's kind of a brutal setting, and it deals with an infection or disease that's broken out, and the only way to become immune to the disease is to eat the flesh of the infected. And the book kind of explains how that works, and it's okay. So the explanation that the book provides for how the world's chemistry and the body's chemistry works in regards to this infection don't really work. So you have to suspend your disbelief. And I'm used to sci-fi that more focuses on hard science plus some imagination. And this was mostly imagination, which was disorienting for me. Then you have the writing style, which I just wasn't a fan of. It felt like it was going to be a story that was going to go in the same direction as any other book like it. That is totally me talking about how I felt at the beginning of the book. This is not me saying what the book is. It's just, it felt like another generic story. It didn't feel like it was going to do anything very exciting. And normally I wouldn't quit just because the beginning feels like it's going to be a 3-star. Normally I would give a book more time than that, but just in the reading state that I was in, I could feel a slump coming on, and I knew I needed to commit myself to something that was going to be great and not something that felt like it wasn't going to be great. So I quit this one. And I really haven't looked back. I don't feel like I don't feel any need to pick this one back up again because it just wasn't interesting to me. Now, this was one of my Patreon buddy reads, and so I did keep up with the chat, and I don't know what ended up happening, but I do know that everybody that finished it said that the big reveal, the big twist, ended up being great. And I think almost everybody that read this book gave it either 3 or 4 stars. I don't remember anybody being really impressed with the story overall, but pretty much everybody said it was worth getting through for the big thing that happened near the end. So to me, that's not enough because if I'm going to pick it back up, I would want for it to be an amazing book, but I mean, you know, there's that. Next book I didn't finish is Mr. Mercedes. This is a Stephen King book, and I don't enjoy books that are a murder mystery following the detective. I've tried quite a few and I haven't enjoyed any of them. I'm not saying I'm done because I have been proven wrong about not liking genres many times before. Sometimes it just takes the right author or the right type of a genre for me to fall in love with it. So I'm still going to continue trying this genre, but this just is not a genre that I tend to like very much at all. Enter Mr. Mercedes, which I thought was a horror, and it ended up being a murder mystery from the perspective of a detective. And it had a pretty interesting beginning, but I got about halfway, and it's just not something that I was enjoying. So I quit it. It's not a very interesting story. Next book that I didn't finish is The Duchesse Deal. So I got 100 pages into this one, and I actually loved this author's writing style. I was really interested in the characters. The characters' chemistry was pretty interesting to me. So basically, my friend who loves historical romance has been trying to get me into historical romance, and I have tried out a couple of her faves, and it hasn't gone well so far. I am the type of reader where romance isn't my go-to genre, so I tend to be pretty picky about the romances that I pick up. And one of the things for me is I'm not a huge fan of really detailed sex scenes. I know the romance genre gets a lot of flack and a lot of people hate on it, so just to be clear, that's not me. Read what you want to read. But for me, I prefer for it to be more of a focus on the romance and less of a focus on the bedroom. And I'm cool with, skipping a couple of scenes in a book, but when you're skipping half the book, it's not really fun to read that way. And with this book, only 100 pages in and getting through all the introduction and everything, there had already been 3 sex scenes that were more detailed than I personally care to read. And when they weren't having sex, they were thinking about having sex. And it's not fun to read when you're skipping that much of the book. So this was basically just a case of it wasn't for me. Next is The Big Sleep. So again, mysteries following detectives. So I had mentioned that this is a genre that I have not gotten into. I've not found any that I've liked yet. And I asked for some suggestions. And one suggestion that came up quite a few times was The Big Sleep. So I tried it out and I DNF'd it real fast. So for this one, and I know that this is a lot to do with just the time in which it was written, but I think I got, oh man, I'll have to go back and rewatch the reading vlog to be sure, but I think I got an hour into the audiobook. And in that time, there were 3 women introduced in the book, and all 3 of them were horribly written. This book, I can't remember, all 3 of the women threw themselves at the detective upon first glancing at him. One of them was really stupid. One of them was smart, but not nearly as smart as him. And then the last one, she didn't throw herself at him because she was having an epileptic fit when he walked into the room, but she also was naked. And before he wanted to help her, he decided to take a moment to look her up and down and appreciate. Again, I know it's a lot to do with the time that it was written, but this is a genre that I don't tend to enjoy. And so I'm going to need some things that are interesting and well done in order for me to get through the story and potentially fall in love with the genre. And this book was doing the other elements so poorly that I couldn't do it, so I quit. I know this is a well-loved book, so just to be clear, I hardly got anywhere into the book, so I'm willing to keep trying if it gets better, but multiple people have told me that this element does not get better. Last book that I didn't finish was Red Sister. So with Red Sister, this is an assassin story, and at least the first half of the book, which is the amount of the book that I read, they are in an assassin training school. So there were a lot of elements that didn't work for me, and again, part of this is just it was something that I just wasn't for me. I don't tend to love assassin training schools. I'm down for reading an assassin story, but I want to watch them kill people. Well, it sounded so bad. I don't know how to make that sound better, actually. If I'm gonna read an assassin story, I want to see them being an assassin. I don't want to watch them, go through schooling. And the first half of Red Sister looked a lot like Nevernight, which was another book that I didn't like. And just in general, assassin training school just doesn't appeal to me. On top of that, our main character, I'm assuming, was an incredibly unreliable narrator, which I'm totally down for, except that she kept changing her story with the same people. She talked to the same group of people, and she changed what she was telling them about her backstory, about her family, multiple times, and nobody was catching on. And it was driving me nuts that everybody around her was so stupid. I'm sure eventually she's gonna get caught in all her lies, but it was really annoying that nobody was catching on. And then the other thing was just that there was a whole lot of girl hate in this book. All these women were pitted against each other and constantly yapping about how much they hated each other, and it was never any good reason. It was just your bland, typical girl hate. And with everything else that wasn't working for me, I didn't like it. I've actually heard from many people that the first half of the book is it's a lot more slow going, and it's a ton of setup. It's a lot of setup, but ends up being an amazing payoff. I've heard that the direction that I thought the book was going in, I've heard that I'm wrong about that, and it goes in a lot more interesting and unique direction than it seemed to me at the time. I've basically been told a lot that I should just see this book through because the series is actually incredible. So even though I really don't have any desire to pick it back up because it feels like it's just a case of this book wasn't for me. I also realize that this may be a book that I could be proven wrong about. So now for the fun part of this video. Every season when I do my DNFs video, you guys get to pick which book I'm gonna pick back up and see through to the end. So again, I want to be clear, these videos, the reason I do the poll at the end where you guys get to pick a book that I'm going to pick back up, the reason I do it is for you, for your enjoyment. So don't worry about which book you think I'm going to enjoy the most or which book you think I want to read the most. Just pick the book that you would like to see my thoughts on the most. Make it about you. Don't make it about me. You guys are so nice. Don't worry about it. I'm happy to pick up any of these books. None of these books were, except for maybe the Duchesse Deal, because, I mean, you guys know how, it's just not content that I want to read. But other than that, I'm so down with picking up any of these books again. It's not a big deal to me, even if I end up hating the thing, hey, we'll get a good rant out of it. So anyway, there's an I in a lowercase I. Somebody thought I meant an eyeball one time. There is an I in the corner of the screen. If you click that, then there will be a poll that will drop down. If you're on a phone or other mobile device, then you'll have to tap the screen as if you're about to pause, and then you'll see the I, and then it'll drop down, and you can pick whichever book you want me to see through to the end, and I will read it next season. Also, last season, with all these end of the year videos and prepping for the end of the year and everything, I forgot to pick up whichever book won the poll for that one. So I will be reading 2 DNF books this upcoming season, and it's gonna be great. Oh, actually, let me just go ahead and tell you what won last season's poll while we're here. Or should I wait until a TBR video? Nah, let's just talk about it. The winner was Oliver Twist. Oh, that's great. Okay, so I hardly got anywhere into Oliver Twist. I didn't even have a good reason for DNFing it. I just quit it because I got distracted by other things and then forgot I was even reading it. So won by a landslide, and I'm really excited about that. Okay, so I will be reading Oliver Twist here in the next couple months, as well as whatever book you vote for in this video. Be sure to chat with me more about any of these books if you want to in the comments section below. I post videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'll see you guys again soon.